We're up on stage, Dan Johnson. Talk to us about the evolvement that has happened here on stage, because I don't see a Marshall anymore, and some new friends. So
yeah, no Marshall heads.
Explain what's going on.
So as we started to do the rehearsals, and well, before we started rehearsals, we set up some rigs and started like just testing out where we were using this. Because we always did.
Yep.
Yeah, and we used this with another Marshall head. You've probably seen that in the old interview. But
yep.
We started with that, but those both have solid state rectifiers, and that's kind of the short story. And it gives it a faster, punchier, bolder, louder, in-your-face kind of sound.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of too much. They were too loud. That's part of the 45 degrees angle thing, you know, that we used to do. It was like just dime them and turn them away.
Yeah.
And that's cool. They did sound good, but Dan's tastes and, you know, the nuance of the tones that he's going after just got sort of refined. He's been using other amps in the studio over the last few years, making a lot of records and stuff. Not these amps, you know. So we just started experimenting, first of all, with the idea of getting some amps that have tube rectifiers, which this Bandmaster does have. And so does the old Challenger.
Yeah, which were
these were in the old rig.
Yeah,
I got a second one too, as a like a spare sort of, and it rounds out the head.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it gives it like a complete look.
It's a crazy looking rig. So we were in his studio messing around, and we had this and this and this, and we decided to go across the street to Carter's and down a few blocks, and walked in the back, right to the very back corner, and there were these two just sitting there. And at reasonable prices, both of them had been worked on recently, and so we were like, let's try them. So within a few minutes, really, we walked out of there I walked into here in 2 amps. Like, we went back over to the studio, set this up with one of each, and did a bunch of testing with pedals and stuff, and loved it, because it's a much softer, it's a squishier, browner sounding.
Tube rectifier do? Okay.
Yeah, it squishes, and it's softer, and it's slower responding. All that is very favorable to how he plays. He doesn't play real, aggressive pick attack. He's got kind of a delicate approach to it, and it just works. We loved it so much. So we messed with it for hours, and he said, well, I got this dinner engagement. So he went to meet with a friend and came back a few hours later. And during that time, I went to storage and got this and this. And when he came back, it was doubled. And he went there to dinner thinking, wow, that really sounds great. I'm all excited about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we're going out on another arena tour. We need a rig.
You need a Stonehenge.
You got all this stuff.
Yeah.
What? You already own it.
Let's rock.
Let's do it. Right. What's this tour called?
That's right.
So, yeah, once we started doing that, I'm like, I know it is ridiculous. I had to get a whole new sled made.
Yeah, you got the pull cables?
Yeah, the old one was 9 or 8 foot, and this one's 9'3", and I have to have these guys like moving around.
Yep.
Because you can't really, grab these amps. Anyway, so the other part of that experiment process was to incorporate all these devices that he loves, that he's been curating.
Yeah.
Basically, So
this one was the last time.
EP4.
Yep.
That's not the same. We were using full tones before. He's got a few, and they're really good.
Yeah.
It's just this has a very specific sound to it. So I got that, and this Premier Reverb too. It's just a reverb tank. It just has a completely different sound than what's in any of these. These are bright and splashy, and that's dark and.
Are they combined, or is these dialed out and that's the main one?
This amp has a tiny bit of reverb on it.
Okay.
But it's only like the tiniest bit.
Yeah.
And this just comes on for effect. And it comes in and out during the show with switching, MIDI switching. This is coupled with that so that he can take it into outer space.
Yeah. Perfect.
Basically, that was the point. Like, have this cranked, because it'll get super deep.
Oh, I bet.
Although we don't have it set like that, it will. And if you couple that with this, punching into the reverb, with this repeats, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
For a spacey guitar solo, Neil Young style sound.
Oh yeah.
And then we have this guy, which is
more than meets the eye.
Yeah, the story with it is so cool. Everything has a story, by the way. I'm trying to keep them short so they don't go too deep. But so this is basically an amp. It's one 12x7, one 6v6, and its speaker output is the input to these other amps. It's a preamp.
Wow.
It's a whole amp as a preamp. And the concept, Garnett was a Canadian company, and Randy Bachman was using a champ. Apparently, I read this little internet story thing about he was using a champ and plugging it into like a Marshall half stack or 100 watt or something like that as a preamp, the speaker output into the input of the other. And it would sound amazing for a few minutes, and then it would blow up.
I was gonna say, that sounds volatile.
There's no load on this guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened to the big amp. I mean, maybe it survived or not. It might have a pretty big fire.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sounds like a hazard.
Yeah, he coupled up with this Garnett guy. Can't remember his last name offhand. Doesn't matter. You can find that on the internet if you needed to.
Yeah.
But this guy just basically made it work. And it's a fuzzy overdrive. It can get pretty squishy and fuzzy sounding, but it's kind of more of like just an overdrive distortion. It has a very singing tone to it for leads. And it's a little bit crunchy too. It's an unusual sound for Dan, for the kind of tones that he usually goes for. But on his recordings, the band's recordings, there are some of those type of tones that we've never really reproduced in that sort of way. We've always just used, variations of fuzz pedals.
Yeah.
So the amps are still pretty much set the way they were, which is, kind of dirty if you're pounding on it, and kind of clean if you're tickling it. So, also about amps and stuff, we got this guy is 40 watts, tube rectifier, 4 6v6s in the power section.
And this is the Commander, right?
This is the Challenger.
This
is a 1950, and this is a 1949. But the thing is, they have the tube rectifier. That's the cool thing. But the 4 6v6s, that's unusual.
Yeah,
amps don't really do that anymore. Not for a long time since then. And also the preamp tubes are steel canisters too, so it's like old school.
Yeah.
But it is brown as the Tolex sounding. I mean, it's just squishy. It's beautiful sounding amp, just plugged straight into it. So that one powers that 810 and this 810, both.
Wow.
And this gets a signal, but just sends a dry a lot of other effects signal to front of house so that he can blend,
do his thing,
how affected he wants to hear things. Because it's such a good sounding crystal tone that comes out of it. It's got a nice top and it's squishy, even just direct.
Yeah.
So also same sort of scenario with these Bandmasters. These are combos. We already have them, because of we use this other one for the arcs.
Yeah.
Actually, Homer played bass through this one, and this was part of Dan's old Black Keys rig. But since we got these heads, I basically have a main and a spare. But they look so amazing like that I might as well just have the spare. So this Bandmaster head powers these two, which we already had.
Okay.
And this is a spare. So we got two 412s basically with an open back. Mm-hmm. And we have 1610s with closed back. But all relatively low wattage. This is 40 watts. This is roughly 40 watts. And the old amps were, a 50 watt Marshall, which is really loud.
Yeah.
And this is 100 watts. So, I got even two more spares on stage that could work. This has a master volume. The point we were looking for at first was that this doesn't have a master volume, and it has a tube rectifier. Non-master volume amps set to their sweet spot always sound better than amps that have master volume. Do you think it's just
less circuitry, so it's more pure?
Yeah.
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 Quicker to the result?
Yeah. But, that's not an option for a lot of people because it gets pretty damn loud. Yeah. Even at 40 watts. So, I mean, the overall rig looks huge, but it's not that loud, actually. It's not loud at all considering how loud it was before. Mm-hmm.
And,
so,
and before, didn't you guys have some type of configuration? In my head, I felt like there was 8s, 10s, and 15s. Did you have a 15 at any point? Yeah.
Well, this amp has a 15 in it.
Okay, but that's not actually getting...
Right, it's disconnected.
Getting routed. Okay. That's what I thought.
And also we had that Commando
Which were
that
like
has
sixes?
8/8s.
Okay, that's right. And they opened up like
Yeah.
the accordion.
Yeah.
Is that
It's an
still in the
accordion amp.
service?
Yeah.
Yeah, just not in this
Yeah,
current
it just didn't make the cut for this guy.
And if I didn't ask about this, I'd get in trouble.
Oh, that's just a bypass
okay.
for this.
I didn't know if that was like an old Dan Electro pedal of some sort.
No, that's the one that came with it.
Cool.
It's just sometimes I just want to, like, I'm messing with stuff and I want to bypass. So I just left it there.
And in I guess, sanctity of time, because we talked so much about guitars and obviously covered these new things, the pedals are kind of the same. We had the metal controller out front that we had in the last rig rundown, and the rack is kind of pretty much the same, you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. The control is all still RJM.
Yeah.
And the tones, we're still playing a lot of the same
With a lot of
songs.
those fuzzes.
You
and
know,
a lot of the same stuff that were on the last one.
right.
So
we just have to keep that all sort of the same.
Yeah.
I mean, he likes to experiment, and we got like lots of other stuff to play with, but a lot of it's still the same.